It's safe to say Justice League wasn't quite what most fans had in mind, and it's also not the version director Zack Snyder set out to make. Now that we know the fabled Snyder cut is finally gonna see the light of day, we're excited by the possibility that this shining spotlight could reveal a darker version of the Man of Steel.
Do you bleed?
This new version might do more than change the public's opinion on Justice League. It could change the future of the DCEU. It's not exactly a secret at this point that Justice League isn't exactly considered a cinematic classic by most fans, and it didn't exactly help that Superman wasn't around for most of the film. He did show up to save the day, but unfortunately, even he couldn't save the movie from being a box office flop. When the surviving heroes resurrected him, he momentarily attacks them more out of confusion than anything else, and then Lois Lane calmed him down so quickly it made the whole aspect of the plot seem unimportant. Of course, I'm always excited to see the Soup show up, especially when he absolutely wrecks his enemies. Which is why so many fans are excited for the Man of Steel to have a second chance of impressing us in Justice League, especially since Snyder has been talking big game about how his version of the film would have been superior to the one we all ended up seeing. Director Zack Snyder stepped down from the project because of a loss in his family, and Joss Whedon took over work on the Justice League. According to Snyder, the end result isn't quite what he had in mind, and pretty much since it hit theaters, he's been teasing us at how good his version of the movie could have been. He shared one particularly tantalizing image of Superman wearing a black and gray suit instead of his more iconic colorful costume. There's even a deleted scene which shows Superman strolling past the suit before going with his standard superhero outfit instead. According to Snyder, his idea was to have Superman wearing this particular suit the whole time, and it's one which may look familiar to comic book fans. This version of his costume is called the Recovery Suit, and we saw him wear it when he emerged from the Regeneration Matrix in the comics. It was designed to absorb solar energy in order to help Superman recover from his injuries faster. Usually, Superman doesn't need a whole lot of protection, but this suit was created for him to wear while he was in a weakened state. Snyder claims that after wearing the Recovery Suit during Justice League, Superman would try to regain the right to wear his blue, yellow, and red outfit in the following films. Since Superman had to be resurrected, it would be understandable if it took him some time to regain his powers, thus explaining the need for a suit to speed up the healing process. Plus, at full strength, he would have absolutely annihilated the members of the Justice League instantly, and that wouldn't have improved the second half of the film. But it seems that this suit is neither a purely aesthetic choice nor one to indicate Superman's not at his full power. It could be a way of signaling that this isn't the same kind, dedicated hero with a positive attitude we've seen in previous films. In fact, a lot of fans think that Superman's disposition will be darker in this version of the movie, based on what Snyder has said about his version and how he intended Justice League to pan out when he was working another famous film. Who could forget Bruce Wayne's nightmare from Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice? This was a vision of, well, Batman vs Superman, and it was also a nod to Superman the Darkseid, a story in which Kal-El was marooned on Apokolips and raised to be the son of Darkseid. Oh boy! Needless to say, being raised by Darkseid and not sweet old Ma and Pa Kent had a dramatic impact on Superman's disposition. This comic showed us a ruthless character who sought conquest and didn't exactly see the value in human lives. If Superman had been brought back to life as this character, it would have been more entertaining, and it would have made Batman's vision seem a lot more prophetic. In Batman vs Superman, his fear of Superman was proven to be unfounded, and even when the Man of Steel was momentarily non-heroic in Justice League, he calmed down so quickly it was barely even a battle.
Yeah. Oh, something is definitely bleeding.
So overall, this nightmare ended up having very little to do with either film, even though Darkseid's Omega symbol was even burned into the sand. According to Zack Snyder, there was supposed to be more of a connection between the two films and Batman's nightmare, but Warner Bros. Stepped in to stop it from happening. He claims that in his original version of the Justice League, Lois Lane was going to lose her life at the hands of Darkseid while in the Batcave. Not only would this understandably have a massive impact on Superman, but he would blame Batman for her loss, thus providing better motivation for him turning on his former ally. But apparently, Warner Bros. Panicked when Batman vs. Superman failed to perform at the box office, and they decided to nix a lot of ideas that it would have made Justice League a darker, edgier movie, including this one. Snyder intended this to be Superman's breaking point that would have caused him to subscribe to Darkseid's anti-life equation, which somehow mathematically proves that hope, love, freedom, and pretty much everything heroes fight for is all meaningless.
On my world, it means hope.
When we talk about wanting to see a darker Superman, we aren't just talking about him changing up his wardrobe or slapping on the recovery costume. Some fans are hoping we get to see a Superman more like the one from Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. It's loosely based on the Darkseid War story arc and shows an all-star team of characters teaming up to bring down Darkseid and save the Earth. Even though it's an animated movie, it has an intense storyline and some distinctly not family-friendly scenes. There's a lot of speculation that the Snyder Cut will have been even closer to Apocalypse War than the Justice League movie we're all familiar with. In the movie, Superman is injected with a kryptonite solution which essentially makes him as powerful as the average human, which is to say, not very powerful at all. Darkseid devastates Earth despite the best efforts of its heroes, and this was also meant to happen in Justice League. Superman teaming up with Darkseid would have been incredible. I mean, incredibly bad, but also undeniably cool. If this is going to be incorporated into the Snyder Cut, then no wonder he's so excited about everyone seeing it. It's possible this version of the movie will also make other aspects of Batman's nightmare relevant. We saw Superman react to the loss of Lois by saying,
"She was my world,"
which nicely bookends the scene later when he tells Lois,
"You are my world,"
before sacrificing himself. This made sense in the film, but would have also helped build up the loss of Lois in Justice League and the impact it would have had on Superman's mental state. Seeing a darker, grittier Superman is one thing, but we need to see a believable journey on how he got to that point, otherwise it'll be just as underwhelming this time around. In Snyder's version of the movie, Batman was going to lead a revolution against Superman along with some of the surviving heroes, because just like in Apocalypse War, I don't expect all our heroes to survive the Snyder Cut, or at least not in the same crime-fighting shape they started the film in. Basically, many fans want to see the Superman that Batman was afraid of back in Batman vs. Superman. Seeing the protector of the planet turn into an authoritarian tyrant would have been incredible, and as strange as it sounds, I just want Batman's worst fears to come true. After all, his fear is why Bruce Wayne is Batman in the first place. Many fans can't help but compare the Justice League to Marvel's Avengers franchise, and it's not hard to see why. Back in Age of Ultron, Tony Stark had a vision that motivated many of his actions going forward, and eventually his worst nightmare came true, which, while sad, was also a satisfying progression of the plot. By never going back to this nightmare in Justice League, it was left feeling like a loose end instead of meaningful foreshadowing. What was the point? With a darker Superman in the mix, we also get Darkseid as the primary villain instead of Steppenwolf. Snyder confirmed that Darkseid is coming to HBO Max, which is where we'll be able to view his version of the movie. Actor Ray Porter also confirms that he's playing Darkseid, who was conspicuously absent during Justice League. We know a fight between Ares and Darkseid was cut from the film, so it seems safe to assume that it will make it into this updated version. Even if there's no further footage films for the Snyder Cut, at the very least, we should get to see Darkseid. In addition to losing out on Darkseid as an on-screen villain and an evil Superman, we may have also missed out on a connection to the Suicide Squad. Apparently, director David Ayer says he'd like to release his original version for the movie now that DC is giving Snyder another chance. The Suicide Squad were meant to be part of the Apocalypse War movie, which is why some fans wonder if this team of villains might have had a connection to Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. According to Ayer, it originally included New Gods elements that were cut out of the final film. Director Ava DuVernay, who's working on New Gods, has confirmed Darkseid will be a part of that movie. So really, it seems like Snyder and Ayer both wanted to incorporate this character into their respective films and were unable to, but he's gonna be on the big screen one way or another. Now, we just want to see how Darkseid was supposed to be incorporated into Justice League and how he'll break down the Man of Steel. Are your hopes sky high for the Snyder Cut of Justice League? Or were you burned too badly by Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice? Share your predictions for the movie with us in the comments section below. Be sure to click subscribe to get more great videos from us here at Screen Rant. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.